Hey everyone, welcome back to the video. Today I'm going to be giving a tutorial on the Origins resource power. Now there are four things to this, which is the power type, the entity action, the command, and the condition. I'll be going over all of them and ignore the sword because this is from a mod me and my friends are working on. And yep, let's begin with the video. The first power is the origins resource, which is a power type, which is the bar itself. So let's go to that power. And this is the power. So it's pretty simple. There's the power type, then there's the minimum amount value of the resource, then there's the maximum amount of value, and then there's the HUD render. So would the bar render or not? I've set this to true and into a simple bar. You could also add a condition here, so it just renders while you're in a specific condition, like for example when you're standing in rain. And there are three other things as well, which is the start value, which is at what value will the resource start. You don't need to add this if you don't want to. It will just start the minimum value if you don't add this. And then there's the min action and the max action, which just makes it so that it does an action when you're at the minimum of the resource and when at the maximum of the resource respectively. And that's a resource itself. So let me just go in game and use my origin. And you'll see that a bar with a water droplet or a sulfide, I don't know what that is, has appeared on my HUD bar. And that is basically the resource that I just made. And that's the power type of the origins resource. Now I'm going to go on over how to change it. There are two ways to change the resource. First, you could use the slash resource command, which is slash resource. I'll use set droid and then my resource, which is invisbar, and then add a value to it. So for example, 4. So it will add 4 to it, and because 4 is the maximum value, it is set to the max. Now the other way to use this is through a entity action, which is known as origins change resource. I've made the power here, which is type action over time, and the entity action is called origins resource. Oh, change resource, and then you specify the resource. So namespace here, this is where you put the name of your folder. So I'll put testy. You can also put a star to make it simpler, and that also indicates that they're in the same folder. The power and the resource are in the same folder, and if they're in the same file, which I'll explain in a for later tutorial how to make basically all of your origin in one file, you'll just use star and underscore and then the name of your resource. But because that's not the case here, I'll just put invis bar here. And then there's the change. So how much you want to change it. I'll just change it by 1 every 20 seconds. Remember, 26 ticks are equal to 1 second. And now I'll just go back in game and reload the world. You could use slash reload, but I just like reloading the world better. And now the power has loaded in, and every second the resource bar is going down by 1, which is perfect. Now we'll move on into the entity condition. Alright, so I've made the power for that, which will just make me invisible when the resource bar is at its lowest, sorry. So we'll just go into the power itself, which is action over time again. Then the entity action is that it will give me the invisibility effect, which is invisibility 2 for 1 second. And this 2 just means the particles will be hidden. And then there is the permission level 4, so the command has administrator rights. Then the interval again, which is I've set to 15, which is almost a second. And then there's the resource condition. So the resource condition works this way. So there's type, which is origins resource, then the name of the resource, then there's a comparison, which could be equals to, or you could change it to greater than, I believe, less than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. I'll just set this to equals to, and then the compare to value, which I'll set to 0, which is the minimum for my bar. So if I go back into the game, reload the world, you'll see that my vector goes invisible because my bar is set to 0. If I use the slash resource command, you'll see that my character. Sorry for if you hear any background noises. When my character has more value on the resource bar, it goes back visible. That's the entity condition. Now I'll make it so that whenever I'm moving, the resource bar will not go down. And there we go. I coded everything for this, and I've just made it for the movement keys for now. And it's really simple. So it uses the power type active self, which just means that you activate it by using a key, which is indicated over here. And I've made it continuous, so it works even if you're holding down the key. And you're using the entity condition to add 1 to the resource bar. And the cooldown is basically like works like the interval, except it's just the time you can use the ability again. I've set this to basically 0. Basically 0. I mean, there's no cooldown, and this would make it so that your bar would go up if you're moving. And I've made the same for all the WASD keys. So now if I go back in game and reload my word, you'll see that whenever I move, my resource bar goes straight up, and it doesn't really go down. But when I stop after 4 seconds, it will go back to 0, and there I go, back to invisible. And that's origin resources for you. Now, this is a really simple concept, but this can be used in many, many, many different ways. And this is one of the simpler ways. So, for example, you could use this as a cooldown as well, or as an indicator to show when your ability should activate or not. And I've just hidden the resource bar so it looks a little better. It still works. So if I just wait, yep, I go invisible after time. And if you have any questions, just ask me in the comments. Anyways, I'll see you guys in the next video, and goodbye.